Gets around in front. Scores! And Philadelphia has it.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics show here on DSM Media's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channels. Guys, first and foremost, if you are new to the channel, make sure to check us out on Twitter at DSM_media. Hit that follow button. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. And while you're over on the channel, make sure to check us out in the link tree on our bio. It will take you to every social media platform we are available on. If you guys want to be interactive throughout today's show, make sure you check out the YouTube link specifically. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and like I said, is the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up on the screen here with us. I'm one half of your host here, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter at DylanJD98. To my left, my co-host Scotty. You can find him as well at Scotty Drowning. Today, we are joined by the miserable, unhappy Mr. Vince Quinn from the Bell and the Birdman. He's also got a new project here that he's starting up that we'll let him tell you guys all about as the show goes on. But my man, it's been a rough morning for you, and I don't know how these next 20 minutes are going to go.
They're going to be a disaster. Make sure you engage with the show by thumbs downing on YouTube. Big thumbs down. I saw the Bijan graphic. It's absolutely awful. It's an affront. I shouldn't be here. It was the whole thing's a mistake. See, the thumbnail was controversial. It was a mistake. And I'm going to force them to apologize by the end of these 20 minutes. That is my goal.
How's it been going, man? How are things, though? How your coffee pot's messed up, everything like that. So
yeah. And yesterday, so I had a pretty late night last night. I was making coffee at like 7 p.m. What was I doing? I was getting ready for Thursday. Was part of it. It was that I'm behind on some other side to like edit a trailer for another show that I'm working on. Like it's just like stuff, man. So I'm making coffee last night at like 7 o'clock, and I realized that after I've started it up for about a minute, that the pot is on full of water. I didn't pour the water into the coffee maker. You know what I mean? So it's just sitting there boiling at the bottom for no reason. So, yeah, I've been having a rough like 24, 30, 36 hours, something like that.
We'll get through it, man.
Yes, sir. All right, listen, man, let's get into it. Obviously, Vince is here to talk birds. He's here to talk NFL draft tomorrow night, guys. And the Eagles, coming off of a Super Bowl appearance, are in a very, very interesting position here as they hold 2 first-round draft picks, one of which being the 10th overall via the New Orleans Saints, man. So, listen, I want to start here. Before we get into when, the Eagles are in a very interesting position, like I said, having 2 of those first-round picks, one of them being in top 10. How much of you says with the position they are in to take best player available rather than quote unquote the position of need for this team?
Yeah, look, if we're talking best player available, odds are at that point you're going to get excited about this, guys. Paris Johnson Jr. He's going to be the best player available. It's him or Skoronski, however you want to look at it, because odds are look, the top of this draft sucks. It just does. And outside of looking at a lineman that's actually worth that pick in terms of their skill level, I mean, a lot of these guys are reaches to me. Like Nolan Smith is really popular for a lot of people at 10. I don't know. He's from Georgia. He plays really tough. Like he's the same size as Hassan Reddick, which is small. And everybody's all excited about this. Like, yeah, we got to go get Nolan Smith. To me, he's a reach because he's a tiny guy. He's 6'2", 235 or something like that. He's a small middle linebacker, let alone edge rusher in the NFL. So, like, I know Reddick's doing it and he's amazing, but Reddick is the exception to the rule. And I just can't get excited about that at 10. So, yeah, I mean, for me, it's just like 10 is a really brutal spot. I think it's really scary.
So when you're looking at 10, you mentioned some of the guys that may be there. Bijan Robinson. But looking at the pick 10. So when you look at it from that perspective, is there any part of you that wants to maybe trade up to go and get Jalen Carter? I know there's been a lot of talk about bringing him in. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I'm desperate for that. Like desperate. And look, here's the thing too, is trying to figure out when and how that works. I think the biggest thing is, does Houston take a quarterback or not at 2?
Yeah.
Because they have that second pick at 12, and they might sit around and be like, you know what? I mean, like, none of these guys really fit. Maybe they just, like, if I was Houston, I only want Bryce Young. That is the only quarterback I'm interested in at 2, and I think everybody else can wait. So if let's say Carolina goes with Bryce Young, they go, all right, screw it. We're going to take Will Anderson or something, fine. You go take him at 2. Then like they desperately need to trade up to 7 if they're lucky and Jalen Carter's still available. Because like the Raiders already said they're not going to take him, which I get. They went through the whole Henry Ruggs thing and like whatever. They don't want to touch Jalen
could be
Carter.
an issue.
Yeah, so like I think they're a very natural trade partner because they're not going to be like, oh my God, are we passing up on this guy? They've already publicly announced to everybody like a month and a half ago that they are passing on that guy. So like in terms of, you got 12 picks next year, so you have all the ammunition in the world. That's one of the few players that's actually worth something for you at 10 that is not only that caliber of player, but like makes a lot of natural sense, and he could be the best player in the draft, period. So like I look at it, like Jalen Carter at 7, I think is the natural move. Maybe you can get Detroit, like they have 2 first rounders, so like maybe, but I don't know. If I was them, I'm probably just taking somebody because they actually don't deserve to be at 6 for a change. So I think they're trying to win, and they'll just take whoever's there that they think's the best guy.
So would you say that would be your dream scenario, or would your dream scenario involve just staying at 10 and maybe taking an offensive lineman?
No, that's it. That's the one. Like that's the best thing they could do. Yeah, for me, there's nothing else that really makes enough sense. Otherwise, you're just kind of hoping, and like you're putting a guy into a weird box. I love Paris Johnson. I think just as an athlete, he's so smooth. And he's going to be amazing if he plays here. I don't care what position it is. Honestly, I think he's going to be a star. So I'm good with that. But like, he would be playing guard to start. It's a little weird. It's like not to do this whole thing of like, we're going to have him play one position for like 4 years, 3 years potentially. Because who knows? I mean, Lane might stick around for 4 years. Why not? He's great. Yeah. Kelsey's been maybe leaving for like 4 years now. So who's to say that isn't the case for Lane? Yeah, so like I look at that and I go like, hey, can you do it? Yeah. Would I be okay with it? Yeah. But like, is it ideal? No. It's really Jalen Carter's the only. Because let me ask you guys this.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? Let's say the Eagles somehow end up with Christian Gonzalez at 10. How do you guys feel about that?
I wouldn't
feel
be
like
angry.
I could talk myself into it, but I'm definitely underwhelmed at first. Like,
okay, and why is that?
Because he wouldn't start.
Yeah, like
it's as simple as that for me. He wouldn't start. I mean, I think I could get behind it because I think we got lucky with Bradbury and Slay staying healthy for majority of the season last year, but at the same time, like now you want to take a corner in the first round, like now
all the
you
years that we were begging for the first round corner because we didn't have a number 1.
That's kind of how it would feel to me. But I don't know. I wouldn't be upset. I can't say I would be upset at almost any pick, though, I feel like, because the Eagles are in such a good position.
There's
that
one
doesn't
pick
mean
I
waste
will
the
be
pick either.
There's one pick I would be legitimately upset with, and it is the route that Vince wants to go. If the lineman is not a day 1 starter, I'm okay if you go out and get Campbell or Skoronski and they are plugged in at left guard or right guard from day 1 and they're going to be here for the next decade. I can talk myself into that, even though it's not right. It's not the quote unquote sexy pick. There are people out there. There are Eagles fans, people out there that would not mind an offensive lineman coming in here to be someone's replacement down the line. That's asinine to me. That is nowhere in the realm of possibility. Vince, I got a couple follow-ups here with you.
Sure.
So Brett's saying he's not trading up. He would trade down and get an extra pick and take him at 15-ish. My question to you, I said this to Scotty before the show. At what point, acquiring all these assets, acquiring these first-round picks in the future, at what point do you finally decide to cash in? I'm not saying 10 to 15 is this big drop-off, but you, like I said in the beginning, you are in a very different situation. At what point do you say, I'm not trading back. I don't need a 13th pick for next year. Let me cash in this first round from the Saints this year.
Well, yeah, I think if anything, they just get stranded at 10. Because, like, look, the draft's not good. For the first round, it's really not that good. So the problem is when it falls off, honestly, somewhere around 7, like, I just don't think it's that good after 7, 8. Like, then I don't know why anybody would move up. The only reason I think anybody would want to move up to 10 is if they legitimately think Tennessee is going to take a quarterback at 11 and they want to jump Tennessee to go and get their guy. But
Yeah.
anybody other than that, like nobody's trading up for Bijan Robinson. Okay. Like if you look at all the other teams in the draft that are like right in that area, they all have running backs. They're fine. So they're not going to go and do that. So like you're looking at a situation where, okay, but who's in the need to do it? I don't think anybody really is. So the problem is if you're a 10, you're kind of stuck and there is a chance they can't trade down, which is why for me, again, it's like you got to trade up. If you have any belief that Jalen Carter is really that guy, and you got the inside info with Jordan Davis and Dean and all that kind of stuff, like give up whatever you got to do to jump up to 7 with a team that doesn't want him and go and make that happen. Like, and they got to hope he falls that far. Because again, Houston might not even take a quarterback, which screws up everything. And he could be gone by like 5 at Seattle because there's just nobody else left.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Carter again, and to me, like that's first on my board. Right?
That's surprise, yeah.
Right. If you go up and do that, like you mentioned Houston a couple times not selecting a QB. We didn't mention the possibility of Houston, if they're not going QB route, trading down some instead of just taking an edge rusher at 2. What do you think motivates Howie to be more aggressive? Like will it be chalk? And if it starts to lay out chalk through the first 4, 5, 6 picks, he moves up? Or will it be if Houston moves out of 2 and things start to get pushed all around, does Howie get on the phone and say, oh shit, I need to go get my guy now?
Yeah, well, part of me wants Houston to, like, if Houston moves out of 2, odds are whoever's going up to 2 is getting the quarterback. So that's okay. I think that helps them if Houston moves out, because then whoever it is, they're probably going to take like Stroud, number 2, which is fine. But otherwise, man, yeah, I think he's already looked at the board and he's already panicked a little bit if they're really not sold on an offensive lineman. And now it's just trying to figure out, like, okay, who can I make the deal with? So he's probably called Detroit. He's calling the Raiders and getting a feel and seeing what he can do. So I think it's a question of just like, all right, we have a couple of scenarios. If these couple of guys fall, they're doing the mock draft simulators like everybody else. And they're like, all right, if this happens, what are we going to do? And they probably have some idea of what those packages are. But unless they really believe they're good with Skoronski at 10, then, because I don't think anybody's taking Skoronski before the Eagles do, then they got to trade up. Like I think it's dire that they trade up.
Yeah, I think as we get through this discussion, I think that's what I'm starting to realize as well, man. But there's a lot of comments in here talking about wouldn't mind JSN either, Bijan or JSN. So when you look at it from a wide receiver perspective or a wide receiver 3, you look at Quez Watkins. There's a lot of people that throw a lot of blame on Quez Watkins from last season and the few losses that the Eagles did have there. What are your thoughts on wide receiver maybe versus, say, if you had to pick a wide receiver or Bijan, is it wide receiver easily there? Like, what are your thoughts on that with JSN?
Yeah, I'm going to wiggle out of this one and let me say I'm going tight end 2, baby.
Oh my
or
God.
Either. Interesting.
Yes.
Wait,
give me I love that Dylan's pissed off. This is a great hit.
Tight end 2 where?
I'm doing a great job. Dylan,
Tight end
screw
2
you,
where?
buddy. No, tight end 2, dude, because here's what I would do. Here's why. Okay, first off, that guy is a complete tight end. So I'm totally good with it. I think he could play in the league for a long time. He's been comped to Jason Witten. I totally see it. He's great with running routes, and that guy's going to be a star. He can block. So you get that element. He can be a factor right away. And then here's the thing, too. Like, I think it's underrated the fact that Dallas Goedert can just split out a little bit if you need him to and do slot wide receiver work. Like, is he the home run hitter in the traditional sense of, like, he'll blow past people? No, but Quez is your, reserve guy. And if you're looking for the deep shot, you can throw him in there for it. Otherwise, you can do whatever you want with both of those guys on the field because they're both high quality pass catchers and the mismatch is so good. So if you're running read option stuff and you've got Jalen doing all of that.
Read option? You want to run a read option, Vince?
Yeah.
I got something to run a read option with, Vince.
Yeah. Is it between the lines? I mean, I got to tell you, man, I think Meyer is awesome. And if I have to reach for a guy there, I don't think JSN is a starting wide receiver. I think he's a starting slot guy. But if I'm not playing him on the outside, and look, dude, he missed up like all of last season because of a hamstring.
Yeah.
When I'm seeing a guy that age missing a whole season due to a hamstring, I'm like, I don't know about this. So I just don't think he's on that tier. Like, think about this too, right? Like, what was it? 2 years ago, they drafted Devontae Smith at 10. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's in the same stratosphere as Smitty as a prospect. I don't think it's close.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's a guy at 10.
That's fair. That's fair. So when you're looking at it's funny you say that. So you would go
It is funny,
the
Scotty. It
Michael
is a little
Mayer
funny.
route, not the Dalton Kincaid. You're speaking on Michael Mayer from that perspective, right?
Yeah, it's really just Mayer. Like because
Okay.
I look at Kincaid, honestly, he's just a receiver to
Yeah.
me. He
Yeah.
can't block worth a damn.
Yeah.
So when that's the case, it's like he's not a tight end. You know what I mean? I think that's one of those weird things about the league and the way it's changed. Like if you can't block, I don't care that you're 6'5" and 265. If you suck at blocking, you're not a tight end. You're a really tall slot wide receiver. And that's what he is. So, like, if you want a middle ground, I guess go get him. He's a giant, and he can do stuff out of the slot, and he can go in high point balls and all that. But, like, I'd rather just get a guy that's a complete tight end. The Eagles are good at identifying those guys. He's going to get more work with Stoutland as well in the blocking game. And, like, he's going to be an absolute monster. So I think for one of those things, Goddard misses games. Like, it makes a lot of sense. And if you have him on the field all the time, nobody can do anything about it.
That's interesting to me, man, because you think about Dallas Goedert, like you said, he's missed time in the last few seasons, each season. And then you look at when they drafted Dallas Goedert to the Eagles versus having Zach Ertz still in the roster at the time. It's like 3-4 years, maybe it's time to move on from Goddard if he's beat up, if he's injured every season, and then you have your tight end one for the future. But looking at the other pick in the first round, the borderline second rounder, what percentage would you put on them actually picking at pick 30? Generally feels like a trade back spot for Howie in a sense.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those interesting things, right? Like if a quarterback falls, I think they're out of there. Because part of it's going to be like teams want that control, right? Like you get that extra year when they're in the first round, you get 5 years on the contract, and then you can do all the tagging and stuff like that. So like if a team is dumb enough to trade up for Will Levis at 30, great. I don't know about you guys. I think that guy sucks. I have no interest in him as a first round pick. He feels like he's kind of got like all the bad qualities of Wentz. You know what I mean? Like he kind of looks and feels like him, but I'm here. It's like, oh, well, he sits in the pocket for too long and takes unnecessary sacks. Oh, his accuracy is kind of erratic. His touchdown to interception ratio is like 19-12. You know what I mean? It's just I'm like, what makes this guy special? I don't see it. He eats bananas with the peel on. I don't need this guy. Like let anybody go and take this guy. Anybody on the planet. So if he's still sitting there for some reason, like get out of there. Otherwise, I think the value is better at 30 than it is at 10. Like it just in terms of the quality of players that could make sense on this team. I mean, I think mocks are all over the place. I think they're going to be like totally wrong when it comes to this draft, but in the reality where they're right, like BJ Ojolari sitting there at 30, heartbeat. I would take him so fast. I think that guy's awesome. I would take him in the teens. I think he's a hell of a talent. So, and for thinking about the Eagles and what they do, he's just got an eagliness to him, high motor. You know what I mean? Like it all tracks. So I like that. I think he makes a lot of sense. And here's my guy, because look, I wanted Kyle Hamilton last year. I didn't shut up about it. They didn't take Kyle Hamilton. That guy kicked ass in Baltimore, and I'm still bitter about it. Give me Brian Branch. Yeah. Brian Branch at 30, I think he's an absolute star. That guy's instincts are through the roof. He can play everywhere. You want to be cheap somewhere in the secondary, so like have that guy play right away. He can do it for 4 years, 5 years, and see where it goes. Like I think he's awesome.
Yeah, I like the Branch pick.
As a 25-year-old non-father, I hope that they announce the trade out before they actually get to pick 30. I don't feel like waiting up for it if they're just going to trade out of it, man.
You know, well, yeah, that's true. If we're up at what point? I mean, God, we're talking like 11:45. Well, like,
later.
Oh, here's the pick, and then Howie's like, "All right, folks, I'll see you tomorrow." It's like, God,
yeah.
Like, do not.
Good thing with Twitter nowadays is picks get leaked 5 selections ahead of time, so I'll probably know by then, even though it kind of ruins the draft. I try to stay off my phone, but you can't because things like the AJ Brown thing happened last year, man. So I want to ask you one more question, and then maybe I'll bring up Bijan one or two more times for you. But look, all of our attention is on the draft picks and these college kids and the prospects. But let's not forget what Mr. Howie Roseman did last year on night 1 of the NFL draft. And with all the smoke of of around Buda Baker, You had the one Derrick Henry rumor that apparently there's nothing to it, but it's still smoke out there, right? Do you think there's a chance you see, maybe not as big of an A.J. Brown type move, but do you think you see Howie Roseman make a trade for a win now type of player for this side, for the defense, or like a Derrick Henry?
Yeah, if they're gonna do a guy like Derrick Henry, I think it's late. It's because look, I mean, in terms of draft picks, he's not worth much, and honestly, there's a lot of great running backs in this draft, so it'd be weird to look at it like you're in the fourth round.
That's interesting you say that.
There is, but and that's exactly why Bijan's not the pick at 10. You know what I mean? Like when you can get a guy that I think is going to be a quality starter, and there's like 15 guys that I legitimately think could be good starters in the league. Yeah.
Talk to me about your tight end some more, Vince. Talk to me about your goddamn tight end some more.
That's right. There's not as many elite tight ends. He's the best one. I would do it. I would do. Was it Schumacher, the guy from Michigan? I would take him in the second. I think he's killer. But yeah, like all these running backs are super good. They're all over the place. You could, if you wanted to trade for Derrick Henry, I guess, but I think he makes more sense in the middle of the season than he does now. Sure. Like, so I don't know. I don't know on that front. The Buda Baker stuff, I totally believe.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting because, like, let's say Branch is really the only safety prospect that's worth a damn. So, like, okay, let's say he gets taken before the Eagles see him at 30. And then you get into the second round and they're looking to make a move. Like maybe that is Buda Baker. And in that case, I'd be okay with it. You got the cap space to go and do it. The guy's an awesome player. I mean, he's just a lot of fun to watch. And he's a veteran. So like to get a guy like that that's still got a couple of years left and you can add him to this team.
Proven.
I'm totally good with getting Buda Baker. I don't think he's a first round talent at this point just because he is older. AJ was 24 when they traded for him. So like he's how old is Buda Baker? Like 29,
27.
Oh, he's 20. Yeah, 27. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I don't think he's quite a first round pick, but yeah, second round pick feels right to me.
Yeah.
No, I'm with it, man. Especially with all of the assets that you mentioned for next year's draft as well. I mean, the Howie and then the Eagles can do a lot of different things here. But Scotty, anything else for Sir Vince here? I'm not sure
Vince. I hope your day gets better,
how much
man.
longer I can take his jokes, but
hey, we only got a day or so left until we actually see who and what they do, right? So we don't have to argue too much any longer. But no, Vince, I hope your day gets better, man.
Yeah, go buy a new coffee pod too.
What are your thoughts on the Eagles offseason so far? How did you like the Hurts extension? Everything with that?
The Hurts extension is magic. Oh my God. Like it's one of the greatest deals I've ever seen in my life. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's crazy. Like the way they structured that because think about this, right? Jalen wins because he gets all that guaranteed money. And in terms of the contract and the appearances, he's the highest paid quarterback in the league. He's really nowhere close to that when you look at what this contract is. I mean, it's a 3-year deal for like $100+ million. You know what I mean? Like it's junk in terms of all of that, but also Jalen's a team player. He's like, I've been saying he's Tom Brady. He's Tom Brady. He takes less money to build a great team to go and win, and he's doing that right now. Everybody wants to play with him, including Bijan Robinson, who should be desperate to play with him, although it's never going to happen. And it's cool to see that. So yeah, I love the deal. I think it's amazing for everybody. You get Jalen, he gets a couple of true years to be the guy. Knows that he's got the security, and assuming the team's good and everything's rolling, they extend him again, and I figure he'll be team friendly again. Like you can just keep on rolling it down the line.
It's funny, Scotty. Vince couldn't even say some of his talking points with a straight face. He had to laugh while he was doing it. But no, man, I appreciate you so much for coming on. Tell the people what you're working on right now, because you and John got some pretty cool things going on.
Yeah, so the newest thing we got, it's called Content Club. And the whole idea, it's really simple. Like as a content creator, you put in all this work and you're spending all this time on it. And the thing is, like, there's really not a great blueprint for anything. You know what I mean? Like trying to figure out how to do this in a way that makes sense. How do you get the most of your time? All this stuff is time consuming, right? Like you're editing constantly, trying to post on social media. How do you keep up with it? It sucks. Like, so how do you do that in a way that saves you time, makes you more efficient, gets you out there more? How do you make money? Just like going about finding sponsors and creating revenue streams. What are the ways to do that? And we're going to be very matter of fact with it, right? Like we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff that we actually do right now and things that we really believe in. And for people that have like different takes about stuff, we want to bring them on and talk about all this stuff. Because like, world's changing, guys. I mean, you're seeing these layoffs. Like ESPN laid off a bunch of people again. It feels like it happens every 8 months or something like that. Like they're just constantly all these big places shedding. So you got to be independent. You got to make it work. So like, what does that look like? How do you do it? That's all with Content Club. And you can find that. So our company is SBX Productions. So you go to sbxproductions.co. That's where you can go and find it. I've also just been tweeting about it all the time. You can find it at It's Vince Quinn if you want to sign up.
Awesome.
Yes, sir, guys. At It's Vince Quinn on Twitter, like you said. Go give him a subscribe on the YouTube channel. My man, thank you so much for coming on. And I'm sure I'll be shooting you some text tomorrow night around 9:30.
Yeah, let me know as soon as Bijan goes like 17th. Text me then.
You got it, brother.
Might go number 8 to the Falcons, man. Won't even make it to 10.
They're great.
How he's going to trade back? How he's going to trade back and take them? But oh man, Vince Quinn, everybody, have a good one, my man.
Have a good one, man. Good seeing you, Vince.
That's good stuff. Let's just fix the background and boom, bang, we are back, Scotty. Guys, Vince brought up a very interesting point there with the Content Club, and that is money. This show and DSM Media is now proudly brought to you by Manscaped. Guys, check us out on manscaped.com with promo code DSM for 20% off your total bill and free shipping. Again, that is promo code DSM, all capital letters. At checkout, 20% off and free shipping. Scotty, after that, again, I'm mainly joking around, man. Obviously, I'm not in love with the offensive lineman pick. I do think there is something there with Bijan. I would, take the 4 or 5 years for a chance to win a Super Bowl and to see what this offense would look like. But I'm not the most savvy NFL draft guy, right? Vince Quinn knows a hell of a lot more than I do when it comes to this. So after talking with him, after going through his mindset there, his process, has anything changed for you? Are you still, for me, it's still Jalen Carter. And I think after all the offensive lineman talk that we went through, I think it's still Jalen Carter for probably him and a lot of people. But where does your board kind of fall into place now?
Yeah, it was always Jalen Carter for me. I think that's like the safest pick. And I think Vince kind of, agreed in that sense that that would be the highest prize that you could get out of this draft if you're the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm sure there's a bunch of teams that look at it that way for Jalen Carter. But I was surprised, kind of, I don't want to say he was down, but just wasn't sold on Nolan Smith, because Nolan Smith is a guy that has become very popular in the Philadelphia area, at least on Twitter and in the Eagles Twitter community, as far as being the pick that will not only would it be somebody that they would want, but somebody that will actually be there at pick 10, right? Or even if they traded back or traded down. But he basically called that, more of a risk than worth anything, right? And then just the JSN talk as well. I thought that was interesting. There's some people that are super high on JSN, physical freak, right? But he did have the hamstring injury last season. Only played only 3 games last year, but the year before that he had 1,600 receiving yards. So it's tough to to pick a spot here, because I didn't realize, I guess, and like you said, I'm not some major draft analyst. I don't get super into the draft, because at the end of the day, the Eagles are going to take who they think is going to be the best.
Right. I want to be picking at
the point of me like speculating.
I want to be picking at pick number 32. You know what I mean? Like I want to be picking all the way back there.
Yeah, so like I don't know, man. I look at like JSN, and I do think, you slide him into an instant starter role as a slot receiver. They did play slot receivers on the field a lot, but he brings up another interesting point with the tight end. I'm not saying that I would want.
I'm out on the tight end.
Get a tight end, but
I'm 1,000%.
They go 2 tight end sets a lot, right? Yeah. We saw a lot of Jack Stoll last year. I don't know.
That's fine. If we're talking
about an instant starter, that's somewhere where somebody could start.
But then to me, how is that the safer pick than going with a Bijan Robinson for 4 or 5 years?
Because he could be your tight end one for the future when you let Goddard go. That's the reason that I kind of see where he was coming from with that, because it's around that time.
This comment from Brett here, or Travis Kelce, and like to my point, right? I'm not this big draft savvy guy.
Yeah.
I'm not even knowledgeable of who this tight end is.
Yeah.
I've heard no whispers of this tight end being some sort of freak, being a
Yeah.
Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Antonio Gates-esque type of tight end, pass catcher, all that stuff. I have heard a running back compared to LaDainian Tomlinson by LaDainian Tomlinson himself. I have heard a running back be talked about as the best prospect in this draft. So to me, look, if you are anti the risk of a skill position guy, the wide receiver, right, the running back, and you want to go offensive line, I'm still against you, but I can understand it more. But to go the tight end route and then I was messing around with Vince because he was smiling when he said it, and I know he was serious, he wasn't joking, but he said, you run those two tight ends out on the field, who's stopping you? Who's stopping you with Bijan Robinson for the next 5 years? You know what I mean? Like, I get it. There's a cap to a running back's life in the NFL. To me, when it comes to Bijan Robinson, and Jason, if you're still listening, I'm with you on this, man. When it comes to Bijan Robinson, if you get 4 or 5 years of Todd Gurley MVP football that you got in LA with the Rams, of rookie Ezekiel Elliott, if you're in Super Bowl contention, there's nobody stopping this offense. So I get it. It might not be the smart pick. Maybe it's too much of that quote unquote sexy pick. I think it's more to it. I think it's more that meets the eye. I think this makes this offense lethal, man. I think there is a reason that there are, whatever. It could have been leaked from the Eagles camp. It's not true at all. There's been reports that teams in the NFC don't want the Eagles to select Bijan Robinson because of what that offense could and will be. I think you take a shot, man. Like, I don't know. I really
could be smoke though. Maybe they want the Eagles to waste a first round pick on a run. Like maybe that's what the executives want, that smoke to be out there.
Here's my problem.
I'm not against Bijan. I'm not against it, but I do get where people are coming from when they talk about a running back and the value and how you can get value out of a guy out of the second round, similar to a first round pick.
For sure.
So like that's the way I'm looking at it. And I would argue that the Eagles offense is already lethal. It's already unstoppable in a sense. That's the way they played this season.
Maybe not unstoppable.
I don't know. I think it's unstoppable. Another year of Jalen Hurts in the offense, another year of Smitty and AJ playing together. But I get where you're coming from. I don't know.
Listen, I know you can get value. Like, yeah, I'm all with the kid from Bama. Like, I know you can get value from a running back. Look at Miles Sanders, was a second-round running back, right?
Yeah.
But let's compare, and listen, I know Dalvin Cook was a second-round pick. Alvin Kamara was, a third or a fourth-round pick a couple years ago. There's always going to be outliers in those later rounds. And again, the lifespan is not wrong for any single one of these running backs. But let's look at Christian McCaffrey. Let's look at Saquon Barkley. Let's look at the first 3 or 4 years of Ezekiel Elliott. Let's look at Todd Gurley. Let's look at all those guys. First round top 15 selections. I will take 4 or 5 years of that kind of production.
But I would say none have rings.
What?
None have rings.
None weren't drafted to a team that just appeared in a Super Bowl. Saquon Barkley's drafted by the New York Giants.
I don't know, man. What I mean there is that a star running back, doesn't necessarily equate to a Super Bowl.
Yes, because that team.
I'm playing devil's advocate.
No, I get you. To combat that, my point is those teams: the Rams when they selected Gurley, the Giants when they selected Saquon, Carolina when they selected CMC. Yeah. They weren't anywhere close to win now. You could have called those the stupid picks because a running back's not going to elevate you. Bijan Robinson isn't going to take this Eagles team if they were a first round playoff exit to a Super Bowl contender. Yeah. My point is you're talking about that lethal offense. You are talking about, potentially going a slot wide receiver or a tight end or a backup offensive lineman. My point is you add that talent to this core, you're more than Super Bowl ready. Like I completely am with you on not to pay running backs in year 4 or 5 a boatload of money. I understand what the lifespan is, and I understand that the past decade plus of Super Bowl champions haven't had a running back make them $1.5 million or $2 million on their roster. What I'm saying is they're in that very interesting position here of coming off a Super Bowl appearance with 2 first-rounders.
Yeah.
You want to be safe, man? Go be safe with the 30th pick. Go take that guy with the 30th pick. I'm not trying to advocate to be irresponsible for the 10th pick. I don't think taking Bijan Robinson's irresponsible.
I think that's fair to say that. I think if you are looking at it from a perspective of you would be willing to add a JSN, if you would be willing to add a skill position player to the Eagles, then you should be open to Bijan Robinson.
Exactly. And I'm open to JSN. You get my point? I just think, I guess from the perspective of looking at it holistically, at this point, if the Eagles don't get Jalen Carter, I'm going to be a little disappointed. And I think it's natural. I think it's a natural thing because it's a little unrealistic that we even get a chance at him. No, I 100% agree with you. Like, that's my pick. That is my dream selection, is for them to go get Jalen Carter. We're talking, I guess, the others, right? Because that's what all these other guys are: the Bijans, the JSNs, the guards and tackles, the Nolan Smiths of the world, the Lucas Van Nesses of the world, right? Those are the other guys. Jalen Carter is that prize, and I do find it interesting. There's so much smoke going on with this pick because you had the clip of Bijan saying that he wants to play with Jalen Hurts blowing up, right? And he's talking up his Eagles visit. You have the report that the Eagles have been calling around to gauge the price of moving up for Jalen Carter. So it's going to be a very interesting night tomorrow night, man. And I guess my whole point, to just finish up this Bijan Robinson conversation, is the fact that, like, again, not trying to advocate or campaign for them to be irresponsible and just go take this sexy pick. And I don't want the offensive lineman. The Eagles coming off a Super Bowl appearance, if they did not have the Saints pick, the Eagles would be picking at 30. We wouldn't even be having this conversation about Jalen Carter or Bijan Robinson or anybody. So you would be building off a Super Bowl appearance with your first-round pick this year, and you could trade out, do whatever you want, take your lineman, take your safety, take whatever you want there. You would hate to call it house money. It's almost playing with house money. And to me,
it's interesting, man. It's a tough decision.
I think any of these guys are worthy of that pick, if that makes sense to you.
Because when you said that, I immediately thought you could take an offensive lineman with the 10th pick and just draft Jahmyr Gibbs at 30, the Bama running back, right? So like that's the other side. I'm not against you at the end of the day. I'm not going to be mad if they draft Bijan Robinson. I just think this is a really tough decision, and we'll just have to wait and see. Ultimately, that's like I said earlier. That's why I don't get too much into the speculation, just because we have zero clue what the Eagles are really about to do.
Not Seems a goddamn clue. Not a freaking clue, man. And
I think it's not Van Ness, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would go Van Ness is like last on out of those guys. Like, please don't.
If they take him out, I'll trust the process. But
I won't be happy about it. Then it would go offensive lineman. Then it would probably go JSN. Then
I don't want an offensive lineman that bad. Don't get me wrong, Dylan.
Yeah. Then it would go Jalen.
I'm not going to be mad about an offensive lineman, but I would be a little disappointed, I would say.
Right. Yeah. No, it's definitely underwhelming, especially when you look at the position that they are in, man. But yeah, I don't know. 30 is interesting tomorrow night because it's like, again, I guess it all depends what falls there, but I'm just thinking about the trade back, and again, you're just acquiring more assets at that point. But hey, if a team wants to come up for a Will Levis, as Vince said, or if a team wants to come up to draft a quarterback at the back end of the first round, and you only move 3 spots into the second round, who cares? You can do it, right? Pick early on day 2, but it's going to be really, really interesting. I got a question for you in terms of this draft night, right? Because it's like it's a blessing and a curse when you're so involved with every major sports team in your city, because like right now we are eyeing up a Sixers Celtics matchup, right? And I know it hasn't started yet. It's starting on Monday. You have the Phillies playing every night and they're underwhelming, but you got to talk like, does it even feel like you're ready for draft night and the Eagles have 2 first-round picks to, help this championship ride? Like, is that excitement there for you? Or are you just like, tomorrow's the draft?
No, I would say the excitement is there for me. I was actually thinking before we hopped on the show today, even with all of that going on, the Sixers being in the playoffs. Now, mind you, they're waiting on the Celtics series to finish, but we're kind of in a little bit of an intermission there in the NBA playoffs. But then the Phillies, obviously, as you mentioned, they go and lose yesterday. It's been underwhelming so far. No Bryce Harper yet. Yeah, I'm excited for the Eagles. I think it's kind of crazy how excited I am for the Eagles, given how good the Sixers look to be in position-wise in the NBA playoffs. And I think it just speaks to where the Eagles are at as an organization. They're the most exciting team in this city, and I don't even know if it's super close from a long-term standpoint of just prolonged success. I think when you have Jalen Hurts in this core of Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman, there's a lot to be excited about there. We have 2 first-round picks tomorrow. I mean, that's incredible.
Crazy,
we came off a Super Bowl loss, and we have 2 first-round picks to look forward to tomorrow evening. Now, mind you, maybe we don't pick at 30, whatever the case may be. We'll just acquire more draft capital, right, and build our team that way. But I think it speaks to how exciting and what a good place this Eagles franchise is in right now. Just being kind of it is exciting, and it shouldn't probably be that exciting right now.
No, it is,
given everything else that's going on. But draft night's always exciting, I guess.
It is when you look at the core they have lined up in place. The Jalen extension's done. They brought back both corners that could have potentially walked out the door this past off season.
I think that's what makes it exciting too, is the kind of guessing game that we have to play, because they don't need anything.
Yeah, there's not a glaring hole.
Yeah.
There's some weaker spots on the depth chart than there are strong suits, but I completely agree with you. And it's like, I don't know. I would have to hit up my man Hembo and ask him when the last time a team coming off a Super Bowl appearance had multiple first-round picks and had a top 10 pick and was able to add to that kind of core. And then you look at everything else, right?
I would love to know what he thinks about drafting a running back in the first round.
I'll hit him up and ask him. But it's interesting. Like you look at the Aaron Rodgers news, and now he's out of the NFC. And dude, the NFC runs through Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
And if you would have told me this a year ago today, I would have laughed in your face. The NFC runs through Jalen Hurts.
What are your thoughts on that Packers and Jets trade? The Packers get a first and a second round, basically almost 2 firsts with the way the second round played out.
I don't think the Jets gave up a lot at all. I know there's been 2 sides of the fence. Some people overreact. I think they gave up a ton. To me, the fact that this year's first round pick, whatever it was, the 13th pick it was a pick swap for 2 spots.
Yeah.
Like the Packers gave their 15th pick or whatever the case was to New York with Rodgers and a 5th round, I believe. It was Rodgers this year's first and a 5th for this year's Jets first, a second and a conditional second next year that can turn into a first.
Yeah.
I don't think that you gave up a first. You know what I mean? Like I don't think you gave up all that much to acquire Aaron Rodgers. Now, if you gave up those picks and you're paying him all this money and he's out the door in a year or 2 and it equates to no championship run, it's going to go down as probably a bad look. But I think the Jets and Joe Douglas and company are pushing all of their chips to the middle of the table. And, that AFC East division is going to be fun as hell to watch, man, because here's the thing. Aaron Rodgers went from being my favorite quarterback in the league to a pain in my ass the last few years.
Yeah.
I think his personality is borderline shit. I think he has a lot to deal with, right? His darkness retreats, putting Green Bay through the waiting game for the last 2 off seasons, all that stuff. Aaron Rodgers can still sling it at an MVP level. And I do think it's funny that all the people, all this talk and this trade just to finish 3rd in the division. Okay. Okay. Finish third in
It
the
is
division.
interesting. It is
Finish third
interesting.
in the division. I promise you, Scotty, when we get to division breakdowns on Turf Talk, the New York Jets won't be third in that AFC East division for me. But we'll
They
see.
might be third for me, man. I don't know. I have like this weird. I'm not saying that the Jets are wrong for going and doing this move. I think it's a good move overall. It's the best move probably the Jets have had in like 10 years, like whatever. But like there's just a part of me that feels like everything that can go wrong with Aaron Rodgers the last couple of years has gone wrong. He's been nothing but drama and toxicity. Even to the point of this situation, right? It was a toxic situation just to get to New York.
I
Jets
agree with you from that standpoint. But
I just feel like there's something bad there. It's the Jets. It's Aaron Rodgers, this toxic drama queen. Put them together. What does that make? Does two wrongs make a right? I don't know.
I'm with you.
We'll see. The Jets have talent. I'm not dissing the Jets. I think they have one of the better defenses in the NFL. They definitely have one of the best young cores in the NFL when you talk about running back, wide receiver, and then look on the defensive end as well. But Aaron Rodgers, I don't know, something scares me with that. But at the end of the day, I do think the Jets, if you're a Jets fan, you're excited and reasonably so. And I think if you're the Jets organization, you have to go and get Aaron Rodgers. You have to. And at the end of the day, that builds up excitement at the very least. It's going to sell tickets this season. It's going to sell jerseys. It's going to create excitement around New York. But it's interesting. Yeah, see, my mom, she says good coaching staff. She just thinks Robert Saleh is good looking. That doesn't make him good coach, right? Like, no, it's not. That's not the case. Robert Saleh is one of the more questionable coaches in the NFL. But no, it'll be interesting nonetheless. I'm not going to hate on Aaron Rodgers too hard here. I don't think the compensation was too much, although I thought the Packers got a fair shake at the same time when he clearly didn't want to be in Green Bay anymore, right?
And Green Bay was over the Aaron Rodgers experience.
But yeah, I would say this. I would say if I was a Jets fan, I would be happy. Jets, I'm sure, are happy. Jets fans are happy. So
I will say this: you and I are on different sides of the fence here right now. I will finish off this conversation by saying the Buffalo Bills might want to go get a DeAndre Hopkins or somebody, and I'm just going to leave it at that because I'm just going to leave it at that.
DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, the Packers got Garrett, or the Jets got Garrett Wilson, and then
I don't mean from a matching talent perspective. I mean that if Buffalo stays the same and they stay in this same kind of window they've been in for the last 3 years in flux, they might not win their division this year, but that's just me.
I don't know. I was talking with friends about this the other day, man, because like with the Bills, it's like if they don't play the Bengals in the playoffs, in do they lose, right? If they don't play the Bengals or the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs, do we still have this depiction of them in our minds?
I mean, I hear you. But like
the Bengals are top 2 team in the AFC. Like if the Bills
but that's
better
the point.
than the Jets.
But that's like the point though, right? Like
if they're still top 3, they're still better than the Jets though.
What?
If they're top 3 in the AFC, I don't know that. They're still better than the Jets though.
I don't know that with Aaron Rodgers now.
See, I don't know. Aaron Rodgers doesn't move the needle for me past like a Josh Allen offense. It doesn't, man. That's where I would leave it, though. That's where I would.
We might have to place a little friendly wager on win totals this year.
Just say, that would be interesting.
I might be a closet Jets fan this season, even though I don't even like Aaron Rodgers anymore for his personality. But yeah, exactly. I think that's the point. I think that's the problem, right? Like that. Like would we view them in a different light? Like, you have to play them.
But if you lose to one of those 2 teams, is that the end of the world? They're the best teams.
Yeah, because I mean, you're just never going to win a Super Bowl then, and the goal is to win. A Super Bowl.
But if they play the Jets in the playoffs, I think they would beat the Jets. So
I think they might. I think they might
lose. The Bengals that were in the Super Bowl the year before.
No, I get it.
And you play the Chiefs or the Chiefs that won the Super Bowl this year.
No, I get it. My
that
point
doesn't
is,
make the Bills like this fraud team that.
I don't think they're a fraud team. I don't think they're a fraud team. I think that they have been a top 3 team in the AFC for the last 3 or 4 years now. I don't think that they have done anything to improve themselves over the Bengals or the Chiefs in any of those years. And I think that the Jets may be coming with Aaron Rodgers this season. I don't think I don't think it's a knock on Buffalo. When I meant go get DeAndre Hopkins, I meant you need something. You need to change what you've been doing because what you've been doing hasn't been good enough. And we'll see, man. But listen, before we wrap up this show, quick little Phillies talk here.
Yeah.
You know, we talked them up on Monday after this, 3-game win streak against the Colorado Rockies. And they come out and they fall to the Seattle Mariners. Now, again, it's game 1. Turn around, play again tonight, play again tomorrow afternoon. But now you have to win 2 straight against the Rockies to win this series and not lose another home series. It's just, again, I don't know. I'm not trying to over and underreact to each and every game. I'm not trying to be one of those fans, but it's like that consistency I'm looking for. Like, and it starts at the top, man. Like I watched Trey Turner last night.
There goes over again.
Over with about 3 strikeouts, and in those
close.
2 or 3 strikeouts, those at-bats weren't competitive. Like, I'm not trying to crush Trey Turner. Like, dude's still hitting for over 300, and I know he's going to be an MVP level player for this team moving forward, but it's like you need him to snap out of it right now. You need Schwarber to snap out of it right now.
Like,
you need JT to snap out of it right now. And then you have Bailey Falter, right? Like they're down 2-0. He's had a pretty good outing. They make it 2-1 off of a Sosa home run. And, here come all the Twitter fingers about how good Bailey Falter has been and what he's done since that 3-run home run against Chicago. Well, guess what? The offense finally scores a run. And Bailey Falter puts them right back down 4-1. Yep. Bailey Falter has a 4.5 ERA. Bailey Falter can't get into the 6th outside of 1 outing. And then, I'll throw this to you, man. I don't know, if you watched late into this game as they were down 5-2 heading into the 9th. But from the 6th through the 9th, Rob Thompson essentially waved the white flag to me. Thankfully, you can say he didn't because the bullpen arms were able to keep the Mariners at 5. But he went Brogdon, which fine. If you want to go Brogdon in the 6th, that's one thing, right? He's going to get innings this year. Brogdon in the 6th. And then he went he finished up with Vasquez
and Marte.
Junior Marte got in, and granted, they didn't give up anything. So you can't say, that's waving the white flag to me. In a 3-run ball game, Rob Thompson essentially gave up with who he was warming up. He had Ortiz warming up in the bullpen. I don't think he viewed this as a winnable game. And that's the inconsistent loser mentality I think this team is playing with. And Scotty, again, it's man, they got down 2-0. They got down 4-1. It was 4-1 in the 4th or 5th inning. That game's still well within reach. Did any part of you feel like they were going to come back and win this game?
No, man. No. I was in and out watching it yesterday, mind you. I was taking a half nap, I guess, watching the game. But no, I started paying attention probably after the 5th inning. And really started locked in and watching the game, and it just didn't feel promising. And I think what that is, Dylan, and it's what I wanted to comment on with the Trey Turner comments, and it's not just him, but he's just a glowing example because he's supposed to be the best player on the team right now. The fire is not there. There's no and mind you, maybe Trey Turner's not this expressive, outspoken type of individual that really, expresses his frustrations or anything on a given day. But once you strike out for the 2nd or 3rd time, right, and you're 0 for 4 on the day and your team needs you to get on base and get some runs in, right? There's no fire. There's no slamming the bat up against your hand, just anything, any type of reaction towards it. It's kind of just we're going through the motions early season here. We'll get the win if we can. If not, it's not the end of the world. We got 162 games. And if you go into every single game with that mindset, what does that turn into? And that's my worry with this team. And Trey Turner, I'm just using him as an example. It's not just him. It seems like it's a feeling across this whole club right now. And it is a little worrisome because they're underwhelming. That's what it is, right? We expect them to turn it up a notch, and they're playing some good baseball, right? Win 6 of their last 8 or whatever it was after the Rockies series. But then you come out and you don't come out with any type of emotion or fire. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. You can lose a game, but show that it matters that you lost the game, right? And I think that's what worries me. They're playing at home. You come out at home against the Mariners. You had a day off. You had a day in between games, right? So you had a little bit of rest there to get your mind right and get ready for this game and this matchup, this series. Disappointing once again. And it seems like a going theme so far, right? They're 11-13 or whatever right now.
Right.
So far, 24, 25 games into the season. That's the epitome of the Phillies. They're underwhelming right now.
Yeah. No,
That's
I
it.
think that's the problem, man. You mentioned that type of lethargic type of energy, like,
Yeah,
oh well, we have
lethargic.
100,
That's the best way to describe it.
we have 130 more to go, 129 more to go, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, down the line. And it's like, not only like will that not be the case soon anymore, right?
Yeah.
When you start getting into June and everything like that, it's just you can't you can't understand this team's identity, man, because
That's it.
you look at them having fun, as we spoke about on Monday morning, and you look at them winning 3 straight and dumping the water on each other in the post game and celebrating, and it all looks good. It looked like the team from this postseason run, right?
Having fun.
And then you come out, you get an off day, and you come back out, and where did
Sleepwalking.
those guys go?
Yeah.
Where did the energy go? Where did the smiles go? Where did all of that go? And listen, they played tonight, could win tonight, and now we're playing for the series against the Mariners tomorrow. I'm not overreacting to the loss itself last night. I just want to see more consistency from this team. That's the problem. And I felt like Bailey Falter wasn't good enough in totality. Yeah. I felt like Rob Thompson waved the white flag, and I felt like the bats were lethargic.
And I think that what you described there is what we've been describing this entire season so far, is that they're just not on the same page. Guys aren't clicking and firing at the same times. But let me ask you this. Have your thoughts changed at all on Christian Pache?
Yeah, man.
He made some crazy plays in the field last night, man.
If there's one positive to come away so far,
it
is that Kevin Long is a wizard.
Yeah, that's a better theme there.
I'm going to work my way into Christian Pache here.
Yeah.
What he has done with Brandon Marsh has been utterly ridiculous. The fact that Brandon Marsh leads not one but 2 major hitting statistics across the majors so far this season it's been ridiculous.
Yeah.
The fact that Edmundo Sosa, Scotty, when they acquired Edmundo Sosa from St. Louis last year, and I was talking on a pregame with it about George Ryder, and he brought up Sosa and, brought up his defense. I think at the time, Sosa was hitting sub 200. Like, I think he was hitting in the high ones, maybe low twos, right? Like 209 or whatever. Like, just not a major league hitter at all. No competitive at-bats, no power. We never thought of him as a home run potential hitter.
Multiple home runs
Nothing.
so far.
He almost like leads the team behind Schwarber, dude. He's come in and has been clutch, powerful, big, consistent hitter, Edmundo Sosa. Now you get the Christian Pache, who, listen, Phillies fans, take notes. All of you guys who, again, I know I was just down on them. All you guys who overreact and talk about how the season's dead and they suck. Take notes how easy it is to say you were wrong and you overreacted. The jury's still out on Christian Pache. Sure, maybe I'm not wrong, but I definitely overreacted from the first week of this kid being here. He's solid in the field. He has speed. We knew that, right? He's a plus defender in the field. I actually don't hate the idea of him in left next to Marsh in center with all the ground they can cover and not have to play Jake Cave.
It's interesting.
Even though it still feels like he's hitting like a $150, like it's still, he just has that like aura to him. Like maybe it's just me. The kid's literally hitting over 300.
Finding a way.
Hit a 400 plus foot piss missile over the center field wall that I never could have imagined he had that in his body to do.
That was on Saturday, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We watched that together.
2-run bomb.
It was a little faded, but my goodness.
Whatever Kevin Long has done with him since that first week of being in a Phillies uniform has been utterly magical. Yeah. It has. Listen, is he an everyday? Is he a major league player? Is he an everyday type player hitter? Probably no. I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah.
Is this Christian Pache a hell of a lot better than what I envisioned after the Yankees series and after the Rangers series? Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. He's a lot better than what I originally thought he was going to be as like a 111 hitter. So
it's crazy, man. Like It's crazy. Just what we talked about, even on Monday, we talked about this, but just the guys that are up at the top, when you look at the batting average for this Phillies roster right now, and the guys that are at the top are Brandon Marsh at 357 and Christian Pache at 348. It's kind of insane. I get the at bats aren't there for those guys compared to the others. It looks like Trey also dropped below 300.
Did
He
he?
dropped
Okay.
to 282.
All
I
right.
think, I mean, an offer, but it's interesting, man. I don't know. We're in this like stagnant spot with the Phillies where it's like you said, I don't want to sit here and like run them through the dirt and like just, totally shit on the Phillies just because they dropped one game, but at the same time, there's no consistency here, but
Right.
we're consistently saying
It's
the same thing, and that's
exactly.
what's
They're
really annoying about it.
consistently inconsistent, and the problem is, Scotty, it's like, okay, they look a certain way during a loss. They win
Yeah.
3 straight, and then when they lose again, they don't lose in a competitive fashion.
Yeah.
They look the same way they looked prior to that little win streak.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They didn't win 3
steps
straight
forward,
and then
3
lose
steps
a
back.
competitive ass ball game to the Mariners.
Yeah.
I would say, I know it's like weird to say, oh, did you ever? No, I didn't watch 1 second of that game yesterday past like the second inning 0-0.
Yeah.
I didn't watch 1 second of that game where I thought the Phillies could win. The
Yeah,
second
they
they
looked
went down
lethargic.
2-0, I thought the game was over. And that is a problem moving forward. So we'll see what they look like tonight. Who is on the mound tonight? Is it Taiwan?
It's Taiwan. Yeah.
Taiwan Walker
Taiwan
against William Gilbert.
versus Gilbert. Yeah.
So listen, I will say this. You need a hell of a start out of Taiwan Walker. Talk about underwhelming. Taiwan Walker has been very underwhelming in his first few starts here in a Phillies uniform. You need him, especially when you have Bailey Falter and Matt Strahm in your rotation right now due to injuries on the staff. You need Taiwan Walker to get deep into this game. You need him to get into the 6th or through the 6th inning. The Mariners are a very, very good, young, talented team with a lot of offensive upside. They've struggled this year.
Yeah.
So don't be the team that snaps the Mariners out of their offensive struggles. Don't do that. Let someone else be that idiot. Okay. Phillies look to bounce back tonight at 6:40 at home against the Mariners. Sixers gets a couple extra days rest off of Trae Young's
Thank you,
late-game
Trey.
heroics in Boston last night. So Joel Embiid, instead of having to potentially play Saturday, won't have to play till Monday night. They go back to Atlanta. Listen, the Boston Celtics will and are going to win this series. I wouldn't mind to see it go 7.
Hey, man. The one thing I'll say, we don't talk about the other series on here too much, but just to say a little something about that Boston and Atlanta series. Atlanta, if they're showing anything, right? Maybe they take 7 games. Do you really feel like Atlanta's going to win the series? Probably not, right? Probably not. But
right.
Boston looks extremely beatable. And I say that with all due respect. They've been one of the best teams in the NBA this year. They've been the best team in the East for a long part of this season. But they look very beatable. And especially when Jason Tatum is playing that way, which we saw him play that way a few times against the Sixers this season. Mind you, record was 1-3 against the Celtics. It doesn't mean that it ended up in our favor. But when Jason Tatum's capable of having games like he had last night, they're extremely beatable. Yeah. They turned the ball over a lot in that fourth quarter. That was very ugly basketball.
At home.
Had Marcus Smart getting out of character. You know what I mean? Just a lot of mistakes made by Boston in that game. Mind you, Trey had some late game heroics, of course.
Yeah. But Trey also almost shot Atlanta out of the game.
Out of the game, right? Shooting it from
shots. So what I would say, like Sixers fans, if like not to say that like Boston's, negativity should give you positivity for the Sixers, but like this was Sixers fans' worst fear.
Yeah.
What Boston's doing, struggling to put away an inferior opponent, is what Sixers fans were fearing against the Nets. And now, obviously, with a Trae Young, they didn't have DeJounte Murray last game, but he's been there before then. You would say Atlanta has more talent, star power than the Brooklyn Nets, right? To argue who's better, who knows who the better team is, but Atlanta definitely has more star power, guys that can light up the scoreboard on you. The Sixers didn't hesitate to put Brooklyn away. The Celtics, with all their championship aspirations and all their favoritism to win said championship, They're struggling. And guess what? They're headed back to the ATL for game 6. And maybe they come out a different team. Maybe Jason Tatum comes out a different team. Ultimately, I think that I'm still 99.99999% sure that the Boston Celtics win this series, and that's the Sixers' opponent. But don't be surprised if this somehow goes 7. When you come back to that energy with the way Trae Young played, getting DeJounte Murray back, because there's only a 1-game suspension, right?
Yeah.
You get DeJounte Murray back, your second best player. They're going to put up a fight at home. So if they win this game, it's going back to Boston.
And knock on wood for Boston, I'm not wishing anything on them. At the end of the day, what one more game in that series means is one more game of opportunity. If you feel like Boston is going to win that series, one more game of opportunity for something bad to happen to Boston, right? If they're the bygone conclusion that they're going to the second round, there's nothing good that can come out of extending this series against the Hawks for Boston. So I think you look at it from a Sixers perspective, it's funny, man. I get it with the Embiid injury. He's going to play with a brace now from the reports, but should be there for game 1 at this point, right? Like at this point, everything has kind of played out for the Sixers the way you would want it to. I mean,
absolutely.
If you can get the Boston Celtics in a 6-7 game, well, they're in a 6-game series now. If you can get them in a 7-game series before they come and play the Sixers in the second round, you get the Sixers 10 days of rest. The Embiid injury, I get it, but that's every playoff postseason. So it's like, we're playing with the same cards as always, but things are falling our way a little bit better. You look at the Milwaukee Bucks. They're down 3-1 to the Miami Heat, and I know we lost the Miami Heat in the playoffs last year. I would rather play the Miami Heat than the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis. I don't care what anybody says. I would rather play the Miami Heat than play the Bucks with Giannis. That's just the simple truth. That's reality. So I think there's a little room for optimism, even more optimism.
However,
don't get ahead of yourself.
However, this is where you see that bullshit locked in bracket style come into play here. If Miami can take care of Milwaukee, we still get Boston,
Eastern
and
Conference
we could potentially see Knicks, Heat, and one of those two teams is getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. That's stupid, but it's the way it is. It's the way it is, my man. Scotty, that is going to wrap up this Wednesday edition of the Faithful Fanatic Show. Guys, we will be back right here on DSM Media's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channels on Friday live at 8 a.m. talking about night 1 of the Eagles and the NFL draft, talking more Sixers, talking more Phillies. For myself, you can find me on Twitter at DylanJD98. You can find Scotty as well at Scotty John. Don't forget to check all of our content out at DSM_media. Hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, everybody.
Yes, sir.